March edition of the VLab Focal Point meeting. This is Steve Smith, the director of the VLab, and John Chattel, our lead on user support for the VLab, has prepared a very full agenda for this meeting. We're going to see some interesting short demos from Mike Giebler, looking at things you can do on the LifeRay side, on the collaboration services side of the virtual lab. Then we're going to hear from Tabitha Huntman, who will provide our project spotlight, looking at the Redmine side of the house at the NDFD forecast evaluation project. And John will then go through some fast facts, and then we'll have a round table where we sort of go around the phone or the call, or if you will, for anyone to ask questions or point out things, share ideas. It's really the time where it's completely free format. Whatever you want to talk about, that's your opportunity. So we really encourage folks to take advantage of that. So with that, I'll hand it over to John.
Okay. Just a couple logistical notes. The first is we are going to record today's session, so there may be others who were not able to make the meeting, and they'll be able to view it. We'll post it to the VLab Focal Point community after the meeting. Also, to facilitate the interchange that we like to have between folks and the opportunity to ask questions, be sure if you have a question to raise your hand, and we'll unmute you. And then during the roundtable, we'll try to unmute everybody see if that works. But primarily, we're going to use the raise your hand feature. And then also, if you need to ask a question, there's a question area as well. And so with that, I will turn it over to Ken for a what's new in the VLab. And let's see, we got to find Ken. Is Ken there? I don't see him. There's just me. He might be an organizer. I know, but there's only me. So. Okay. Well, I tell you what. Perhaps Ken will join us later. So let's see. Let's see, Mike Giebler. There he is. Okay, there we go. All right, Mike. Let's see. We're going to ad-lib the agenda here a bit. So are you prepared to give us a short tutorial on a number of features that will allow us to sort of pretty up our websites in the VLab?
Yeah, I'm all ready.
All righty. Why don't you take it away? Oh, hold on a second. Okay, and you should be able to accept the screen now.
Okay, I've done that. Hopefully you can see me.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, so I have several different topics to cover today. I've kind of wrote up a quick agenda here. This is in our development site for collaboration services, and I'm going to be talking about portlet permissions and kind of show you a couple examples of what you can give to users and take away from users if you want to using portlet permissions. And then I'm going to go into some of the portlet configuration and how that affects your portlet appearance. And also we can even go into making changes to an entire page or even to your entire site if you want to. And then finally, the last topic will just be a short introduction to workflow in collaboration services and show you how you can enable some of your things like document management or your wikis and web content. You can attach workflows to those so that they don't appear on your page until they go through a workflow process. So first of all, let me go ahead and start with portlet permissions. And one thing I wanted to say on those, the portlet permissions is very specific to each portlet. Each portlet will have a different set of things that you can allow users to do, and also because they're doing you're allowing them to do different things, different buttons will show up on the portlet. And for my examples I just want to show you the forms portlet and the document library portlet. Those are two good examples of how you can do fine-grained security using portlet permissions. Let me go over here to this page here has a forms portlet on it. And what I've done so far here is I've just added 2 categories. There's nothing underneath these yet. And right now these are open to anyone that's a site member to this community here. But as a community owner or community administrator, you can put fine-grained security on these. So say, for example, this category 1 category, let's say you just wanted certain people to be able to post, create new subcategories or create post threads to this category. You can do that by going on this Actions menu and clicking on the permissions. And when this comes up, you can see that there are a lot of different things that you can put fine-grained security on. You can limit who can add a file, who can add a message, who can add a subcategory under this category, and who can delete, things like that. Who can subscribe to the thread. So whenever there's a new thread attached to that category, they'll get an email message. And initially when you set this up, these all come in by default. All of these different roles come in, and the owner basically can do anything. And then your site members can do a few things. They can add a file, add a message, but by default they can't add a category. So if you wanted to, you could check that box and allow them to add a subcategory to this category. But what I'm going to show you is, what I want to do is make it so that a normal site member can't add a file or a message to this category, but they can still view it. But I've created a team for this community, and I'm going to allow anyone that's a member of this team to do those 2 items, which is add a file, add a message. But I'm also going to allow them to add a subcategory to this as well. And then when I click Save, now I have another browser session that has somebody that's just a normal site member. So this person is not a member of the team that I selected. And when they go to that forums section and to that category, they don't have the buttons to be able to add another, to post a thread or to add a subcategory. By default in that category 2, since I didn't make any changes to that, the default was that they can post a new thread to this one if they so choose. So that just kind of shows you a little bit fine-grained security for the forums portlet. And you can do similar things in the document library portlet. And I have one of these set up here. I have a couple of folders that I created here. And when you go to those, let me go back to the site owner here. And on each of these folders, you can do put fine-grained security on these as well. Click on the little drop-down next to the folder and go to Permissions. And you can see that they have a different set of things that they can do. You have, they can add a document or add a subfolder into this folder, update and view. And if you go to the user, you can see that they have view access, but they don't have add document. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and give, I'm sorry, site member. What I'm going to do is unclick the add document for the site member, but I'm going to allow, again, somebody on this team to be able to add a document. And now back to my regular site member. If they go into this folder, I still allowed them to add a subfolder, but they don't have the ability to add a document at this point, just by what I checked there. I also have this person here is on that team, and if they go to that folder, you can see that they can add a document if they want to. So that's just kind of giving you a little demonstration of a couple of the portlets that have some fine-grained security and how you can limit what certain users can do. And I wanted to point out again the usefulness of the team concept that we've been starting to use in the LifeRay collaboration services. And I don't know if we've covered this before, but I don't know if everyone's seen it or if everyone remembers it, but that is on the admin page under users. And you can see there's a community teams tab over here. And here you can add a new team. This is the team that I created. And if you go to the actions, you can go to the assign members and walk through that process to assign members. If you click this available tab, it'll list all the members that are in this community, and you can select multiple ones and update the association to that. Okay, so then the next topic I was going to do is talk about portlet configuration and page appearance and how you can change colors and things like that within the portlet if you want to. Since I'm on this page, I'll go ahead and show you some things on here. Hold on here. And to do this, it goes on this little wheel up here, the cog. From there, you can have a look and feel option. And the simplest way to do some configuration, but it's very basic, is to go through the tools that LifeRay has here. You can go to the background. Yes?
We had a question, I think, on the last piece of information you were covering.
Sure.
Brian Moretsky, I've unmuted him. He wanted to ask a quick question.
Okay.
Brian?
What is a normal site member?
Oh, what I'm talking, well, it's somebody that the only role that they have is that they are a member of the community. If you go into this users, and you have this add community roles to a user, you can add a bunch of different roles. You can make them a site owner, you can make them a content reviewer or a site administrator. So what I'm talking about when I talk about a normal site user is somebody that is just a member of the community, but they don't have any additional roles.
Okay. Is there any way of, if somebody is not a member of a community, to have any role for them, just a member of the VLab community as a whole, or do they have to be part of that community to get some specific role assigned to them?
So for these roles, these are community roles. You do have, if you have public pages, so with collaboration services, you can have a set of private pages, which I'm kind of running through right now, which only community members can see. But you can also put public pages out there as well. And you don't have to be a site member, a community member, to actually view that information. And you can put some, give them some limited ability to do some things, even if they're not a community member on those pages. And off the top of my head, I don't know what all you can allow them to do.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I think I could probably show you real quick if I go over here back to the permissions on the folders. somebody who is, so a guest, so you can see there's a guest role. A guest is somebody who is not even logged into the system. So those are usually pretty limited. These are all grayed out. They don't allow you to mark these. A user is somebody that has logged into the system, but they're not a community member. So you can, if you check some things for the user, you can allow them to do some things.
Oh, okay. So is that user available for private communities, or let me rephrase, is that for communities, or it has to be a public community for there to be a user role?
Well, this is a private community that I'm on right now, and it's available here. The only thing is I'm not sure if the user can navigate to the page. For the document library, you might put a link on a public page that links to a document, since this is a document library portlet. So that way, when they click that link, they have access to this document. So a lot of this stuff will be limited just because the user can't get to this private page.
Okay.
Yeah. So viewing the web content, but some of these things like the documents, you can make those publicly available by this way.
Yeah, this is Ken. So just to clarify, any of the private pages, you're not going to be able to access those unless you are a member of the community. But if you were to create a public page, as Mike said, associated with the community, then you can set the permissions in such a way that you could open it up to non-members or even to the guest role, in which case you wouldn't even have to be logged in. But just the way in which things are structured, private communities or private pages within communities are not accessible to guests or just general users.
Okay. I lost Ken. He faded out on me, so I don't know if he's finished.
I was done. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay. It had a funny way. You just faded out instead of a final. Okay. Are there any more questions on that topic? And before I go on to the portlet configuration, look and feel items?
Doesn't look so. I think Brian's through with his question.
Okay, with the look and feel on a portlet, LifeRay does provide some very basic things, some basic tools where you can change like background color, you can do some things with the border around it, and coloring and stuff like that, and the text styles, you can make some changes to that as well. So with just a few quick strokes here, I've done some very basic changes to this, and so I just changed the background color a little bit. There's a red double border around the portlet. So those are the very basics of what you can do with configuration out of the box, but they also have an advanced tab on here that allows you to do a lot more styling on this portlet. And basically what you're doing is going to apply your own style sheet to it, and that kind of defaults to small window, but you can open it up a little bit there. And with this, if you know a little bit about style sheets, you can add some different styling to this. And one thing I want to point out is you can do these at kind of different scope. So there's, at the bottom of this box, there's a little hyperlink here that says add a CS rule for just this portlet. So if you click on that, it gives you a little template. And what that does is it selects just this portlet for this style to be applied to. And so you can apply a style to this. I'm just going to do a couple of simple things here. And I think this will override the blue that I put on here if I refresh. And that's just a background color gradient that I put in there. And this kind of can be a fairly useful tool if I can get this out of the way. So you can move this off to the side, check this box that says update my style as I type, and then as you type it'll change right away for you. Maybe. Oh, I forgot my semicolon, I think. And I'm not sure what's going on there, but it should be able to change right there. I'm going to move over to this different portlet here. And I actually had added a few different styles here to this community portlet. It'll show up here on this other page. Just to give you an idea of things you can do. So this is My Communities portlet that appears on the front page of our VLab. And what I'm doing here is I knew the portlet ID for this is portlet_29. And I'm just putting a background on here. This portlet has a table on it, so I'm changing the background color for the table header, and for each data cell in the table, another background color. And when the cursor hovers over a row, it'll change the color and things like that, just to give you an idea of some of the things you can do with this advanced styling. I always have to hit refresh after I do that. So that put that radial background on it, and you can see that this table changed the colors on that, and the hover and everything like that on there. And so that just kind of shows you what you can do out on the portlet level. You can also do this on the page level too. And when I was playing with this, the way I kind of designed it was that I did my designing right here in one of the portlets, and it'll go page wide. And I have actually a big example here. Let me paste it in here for you. And if you look at this closely, you can see that I've gotten rid of the portlet 29 identifier that was on there. So that's not going to be just for this portlet anymore. It's going to be for the entire page. And so you can see I changed a lot of different things on here. It's not very attractive, but you can see that we changed the color of the top bar on all the portlets, changed the color of the buttons, and even the color on the dock bar at the top. And I just want to kind of show you that, and then also I need to show you how did I identify what to change on this page. And that was actually another topic on here, and that is the how to use some developer tools. And so now, modern browsers now, Internet Explorer, Chrome, and Firefox, I know, all have developer tools that come with that. And here I'm in Chrome, and if I go to More Tools, you can see that there is this developer tools option. And it opens this up on the right here. And how that works here in Chrome is over in the top, there's this toolbar at the top, and you see a little hourglass or a magnifying glass up here. If you click that and it turns blue, that activates your cursor to be a selector, and then you can hover over a spot and click it. And then over on the right here, it's got that highlighted and shows you exactly where you're at. And then down below here, it actually gives you information of how it's being styled in a style sheet. And here you can see that we have the background color is green for that element. And we can go ahead and even change this right here to see how it looks. If we wanted to change it like back to a blue. And you can see how that changed right away. These are all kind of a bluish now instead of that green. And this doesn't save. It just kind of gives you an idea what to look for. In order to save this, what you would need to do is go in here. What you could do is go in here, and you can actually highlight that and copy it, and then you can go into your look and feel and paste that in here. And I think I probably already have that element in here, so I'm not sure how well that's going to work out. But we'll try it. Okay, it actually did change it for, after I refreshed it, it's still showing up as a blue instead of the green. Now, one thing to note, to style a page like this, putting that style sheet in into the portlet is probably not the best place for it, because you could easily lose track of where that's supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out of here. And the proper place to do this would be up in your, when you go to administration, you can go to the pages and you can style the individual pages. So here we're on look and feel. I go to my private pages. I can click on that home page. And over here there's a look and feel. And if I wanted to find a specific look and feel for this page, I can insert my custom CSS right down here and save that. And then when I go back to that page, it should be styled that way again, and it is. And that was just for an individual page. We really could, if we wanted to, style the entire site this way, doing the same thing, going to admin pages again. And instead of clicking on an individual page, be up here at the root level of the private pages, and you can see down at the bottom here's you can insert a custom CSS right down here. And now you can see we have those colors on all of our pages. Okay. So a way for you to kind of change the look and feel of your community if you wanted to. And that's really all I wanted to show you on that. I don't know if anybody had any questions for me on that.
If you have a question for Mike, be sure and raise your hand or ask a question, and we'll try to relay it on if you don't have a mic.
Okay. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to show you is there, if you don't know a lot about cascading style sheets, there's a good resource. I like the W3 Schools website. It has some good tutorials on CSS and how to select items. This is a little tool that they provide that tells you how to select an item. So if you want to look at this paragraph, this is showing you how to select on an ID here. So if you click on ID, these are all the things that have an ID. So the W3 Schools, I think, is a good resource for cascading style sheets and customizing the look and feel of your pages. All right, and then the final topic I was going to go over is integrating workflow into your community. And to start off, I was just going to show you a couple of quick examples. So this here is a tool that we have access to since now that we've gone to the Enterprise Edition of LifeRay. It's a graphical editor. I think that most of, probably all of our existing workflows are written using XML, and that looks like this. So kind of difficult, but now with our new tool, we have a more graphical way of doing it, and a good majority of our workflows actually look like this. This is a single review process, and we have several of these, and the thing that's different about them is this review process is the assignment. There's one that's available to everyone, and that's this single approval process. And what happens is this initial review process gets assigned to any one of these roles. It's probably hard to read that. I think I have it over here. Any one of these roles, an organization administrator, content reviewer, site administrator, site content reviewer, site owner, by default would get that initial assignment to review that, whatever this workflow is attached to, and then have the opportunity to either approve it or deny that request. In your community, what you can do from the administrative pages, if you go to configuration, there's a workflow configuration under here on the left. If you click that, you can see what you can attach a workflow to. So a lot of things, these can be configured right in here, and also you can configure the workflow within the portlet for documents. That would be a big one. And if you do any dynamic data list records, you do that within that portlet itself. But these other ones, you can assign workflows for this community, for blogs, any web content, any wikis, so that if somebody were to write up one of these, before it displays on the page, it could go through a workflow process first. Let me see if I can give you a quick example of that. Let's do it with a blog entry, I guess. And all right, so I've signed the single approver workflow. And what will happen is if somebody enters a blog, before it displays on the page, let me just kind of show you real quick. Over here to blogs. And instead of save here, it says submit for publication. So that means it's being submitted through the workflow. And it says pending approval here, and I can see it because I created it. Let me see here. Here I am as just a site member. If I go to that blogs page as a site member, you can see that other people are not able to see it until it goes through the approval process. Since I'm a site owner, that was one of those roles that this can get assigned to, and you can see I've gotten a notification here that there's a new submission waiting for me in my workflow. I can go there, and here it is. It gives you a little summary of what was in there. Here's the actual text of that blog. And the first thing I need to do is assign it to me. And then I can either approve or reject that. I'm going to go ahead and approve it. At least I think I did that right. And now that it's been approved, this other member of the community can actually see that now. So that's just kind of a quick demo of how you can have things go through an approval process before they're actually put onto your community. So and just as a reminder, the items that you can do that to are page revisions, blogs, web content articles. If somebody makes, you can actually attach it to comments. So I know like so some forums and things like that, you can allow people to put comments on those. So those have to could go through an approval process as well. Forum messages, wiki pages, also documents in the document library can go through that process as well. So that is what I had on workflow. I don't know if anybody had any questions about that.
Any questions for Mike? If so, would you raise your hand and we'll see if we can unmute you? Okay, Mike, we know this had, oh, wait a minute, there's Brian Maritsky. Okay, stand by. I'll unmute him. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, just a quick question for Mike. I couldn't tell, was all the workflows, you showed some where you could possibly design some. Is there specific entries into the design process that you can select from, or could I make something up and somehow that would work?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure, let's see, this is a, I don't think that I think you have to be actually a LifeRay administrator. Yeah, we don't have the design tool in here. unless you're actually an administrator. And then we have designed some workflows for some of the communities. Most of those have just been changes to the role that those get assigned to. So right now...
Okay, so use something that you have already.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have... And then if you need something customized, we could certainly take a look at doing something for you if you needed to go beyond what we currently have.
Thanks.
Yeah, if any of the communities, the community owners, if you guys need something and you want to put in place, do some sort of, put forms in place and you want custom workflow, or in fact you want to put some sort of approval type process in place for content within your community, let us know, and you'll be able to enable the workflow, but you're probably not going to get the workflow configured the way you'd want it without a consultation. And because, as Mike said, we're going to have to be involved for that. And there's an issue right now, too, and that drop-down list of the workflow definitions is quite extensive, and it really shouldn't be. It should be just a couple of options there. So we're looking at changing that so that it would only show you what would be appropriate to select.
Yeah, you can see there are a lot of, actually even different versions of it show up. So it'd be nice to limit that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Brian. Appreciate that question. Any other questions for Mike? Okay. Well, Mike, let me thank you. We had a viewer warning on these topics that they were definitely falling into the advanced category, but you managed to make it seem something tractable that I could even understand. So I really do appreciate the effort it took to make that possible. I did want to also mention, as sort of a segue into the next point, is that people who were at the last meeting, they recognized the topics that Mike covered during his portion of the presentation, and these were user-requested topics. So people who had attended our last VLab Focal Point meeting had asked if we could present some information on these two topics, and so we responded, sort of in the affirmative there. And so I want to make the point that if you have ideas or questions or things that you'd like to see in future Focal Point meetings, either mention them during the roundtable or send me an email or something to let us know, because these meetings are really supposed to be tailored to meet your needs. And so Mike was in the mode of us, our experts, sharing their knowledge with you. But and we're going to do that also with Ken Sparrow in just a second. But after Ken talks, we will then transition into yet another part of the meeting, and that part of the meeting is a chance to build community among members of the VLab by sharing what each of us are doing. And so, by seeing what everyone else is doing, you can establish contacts and consult with them if there's something they're doing that you're interested in doing as well. So. With that bit of introduction, let me transfer over to Ken. And would you mind giving us a quick update on what's been going on since we last met in the VLab?
Sure. So a couple different things. One is that we've been, as I give you an update each month, there have been some new projects and things like that, as well as communities. And so looking at the list there, we've been actually busier on the community side than on the project side this last month, which that's actually somewhat unusual. But the latest of the communities that's been created is the C-STAR project for research to operations. That's that's been put in place a couple of days ago. There are also a couple of communities that were outside of the Weather Service, more NOAA specific. There's an intra-NOAA acoustic work group community, and then a National Ocean Services community for communicating, developing, and collaborating on technical-based NOS projects. And then there is one weather one, a weather information statistical post-processing system. So those are the new communities that have been created over the last month. On the development services side, on the project end, that's been a little bit quieter. There was a request regarding NOS Ocean today, and I think that's still pending in terms of trying to decide how best to handle that. And then there have been some new community or projects created in support of AWIPS 2. The AWIPS 2 system within the Weather Service, it's the development side of that has been undergoing some changes with regard to the underlying repositories that are used for development, and that's been broken up into more projects, separating out NSEP and GSD and other groups. So we have new projects in support of that. So those are some of the bigger things. There's also been a fair amount of work in an area called regarding the projects repository, and I suspect that we'll probably be giving something covering that in a future meeting. So I think that's what I'd like to cover today, unless there are any questions.
Any questions for Ken? Okay, thank you very much, Ken. And we'll have another chance if you think of something later on in the meeting to, basically get questions answered from Ken. So as I alluded to a few minutes ago, we have Tabitha Huntman here today to talk to us about the INDFD Forecast Evaluation Project. So this is on the development services side of the VLab. And during this segment, she's going to give us an idea of what the project is about, how they're using the VLab, and perhaps even some ideas on things that she's found particularly useful in getting her job done that the VLab offers. So with that, Tabitha, why don't you take it away?
Are we displaying our screen yet?
Let's see.
I think we're still on my screen. How do we?
Here.
Go ahead and drive real quick.
Sure. All right. I'm going to guess it's Ken Hassey. And then we had one
And then there's a Chrome tab, I think.
There we go.
Right here.
Okay.
Well, thanks, John, for inviting me to go ahead and share my project with you. At the end of all these meetings, you always ask for suggestions, and I think I've been hounding him for months about, I'd like to see something from the development services side. And so he said, well, why don't you go first? When you log in, this is the first page that you come into. It's the overview tab of your project. And we use this page to house all of our source code, control files, configuration files, all kinds of things that we use to verify NDFD. It's something that we do on a monthly basis. And we are really creating like a centralized place, especially for our repository for our scripts. So this overview page kind of gives you an idea of what the members of your project are. There's an overview of open issues, and I don't spend a lot of time on this page, but this is the basic place where you land when you log in. One of the places where we spend a lot of time is in this wiki tab, and this is where we house all of our documentation for running our monthly processing. We have documentation on how we collect our data, which we do daily. And then the real meat of what we do is down here in our verification processing. It's the list of different procedures that we use to actually run our verification. And so, there's sub-pages in the wiki, just like any other wiki software you'd be familiar with. And you can do your formatting, your header sections, bold things. You can format text like code, so you can see things that are supposed to be snippets of code. You can insert a table of contents, which will link you down further in the page. So you can see here, step 4, we check WBC data to make sure that it's complete. There are some commands here that we can just copy and paste directly from our browser into our console windows, which kind of helps ease our processing somewhat. And just like any wiki page, this is all under version control. So you can click a history link up here at the top of the page, and you can see log messages if people chose to type them in from when they changed the page. You can annotate the page to see who changed. This will load in a second. You know, if you annotate, it'll bring up the page with the raw code from the wiki, and it'll list, you know, who changed that line and at what revision. And so to just give you an example of why I really love the wiki, we can go back all the way to version 2 of our documentation. And you can see that we originally just had ASCII text files saved on the supercomputer where we do the work. And, you know, you'd have to hope that somebody remembered to type their name and their date and what they did at the top, and there's no formatting, so you'd have to say, oh, Tabitha added these 2 lines, you know, I don't know, maybe you should check them out. So it's been a tremendous help to us to have this wiki, to have formatted documentation of our procedures, but also formatted documentation of how to actually run the codes and things that we can copy and paste. The other feature that we make real heavy use of is this repository tab. All of our source codes and scripts and everything we keep under version control using Subversion. And it's been very nice to have the virtual lab hosting our repository. Before the virtual lab came along, we had a repository hosted on WCoast, on the supercomputer system. But we work on some other systems as well that could not see that repository. So having the repository hosted in the virtual lab allows us to actually have one set of code that we can see on WCoast or on the research machine Zeus or on MDLNet, or even I have a Linux box on my desk here at work. I could download my code straight there from the virtual lab. And that has been really helpful in getting my job done every day. And you can see right here on the front page, you can see all of the latest revisions. That's another nice feature. When we were hosting the repository on WCoast, we had to do everything from command line. So here we have a nice web interface to look at our log messages and look at our revisions and things like that. If you want, you can click on any revision. This is the last one that I did, I guess, this morning. You can see, you know, who made the change, when they made it. You have to type in a log message when you make a commit to your repository. So I have a little blurb here about what I did. Any other files that changed in this revision would be shown here. When you make changes, you can click this View Differences link, and you can see that, you know, I just changed a couple of lines this morning. You can either see it side by side or in line, what I took out and what I added. It only shows the few lines of context for what you changed. If you wanted to see the whole file, you can do that as well. If you just click the file name down here, you can see all the lines of this script. So, you know, this is really helpful for us keeping track of what we've done, when we did it, who did it, that kind of thing. You can see all of the log messages specific to this one file. It's really helpful. And so lost my place a little bit, but there's also, we just started using this Issues tab as a ticketing system. So you can see we have some open things. Recently you may have seen emails about some of the tracker drop-down items changed names. So we were using what was available at the time. So that's why these things say, you know, AWIPS code improvement. It has nothing to do with AWIPS, but that's just what we had available at the time, and I haven't gone through it and changed everything. But if I look at this morning, I opened and closed the ticket, so I'll change this to closed. And so you can see Tabitha this morning opened a ticket about RTMA rsync failures, and you know, In these tickets, you know, you can give your status when you open it. You can say new or whatever. You can give it a priority. You can assign it to somebody. I assigned it to myself. You know, you've got all these useful things like start date, due date, how much of it's done. You give it a description. When you make changes, there's a history. So if I were to hit edit, you know, I can change all of these things. And here I could type, you know, demoing for VLab. And if I hit submit, it would show up over here in the history. Another really useful thing that I actually only discovered this morning was you can, I knew that in the text here, if you type R156, for example, that would link to revision 156 in the repository. But you can also, when you open a new ticket, link it to a revision. So this morning I linked the code update that I did to revision 584. This is that log message I showed you just a few minutes ago. I can click here, and this is that page that I showed you just a minute ago, and you can see related issues right here, this closed ticket. So like I said, we've only really just started using the issues tab to track, you know, what we're trying to do. You know, if we have a planned addition, we might open a ticket for that, or like this morning I found a bug in one of our scripts, so I opened a ticket for that to show you guys how we're using it. And so in addition, these issues, when you give them dates, you can see them show up on the calendar. So here's today, and you can see that this ticket was closed today. There's also a Gantt chart tab that I haven't used much yet, but you know, it'll let you see a Gantt chart of what you've been working on. If I update this, I can show you some of the all of the different open tickets and closed tickets that we have. So you can do a Gantt chart. I would think people trying to do project management or maybe have more formal training in that than me might find the Gantt chart and the issues system pretty helpful. I'm looking forward to learning more about it, but like I said, we've just started really using it. And I guess just the final thing that I would want to show you is there's also, if you're curious about what everybody's been working on, you can go to this activity tab, and you can see I was really productive yesterday. I made a lot of small commits. I was merging a branch into the trunk, so that's why it looks pretty impressive. But you can see I have the same commit message every time. But yeah, you can see you know what people are working on in the project, and all of these are linked, so I can go look at revision 583, and you can see this was a commit to add to integrate a branch into the trunk. So there's a bunch of files here. You can diff different files, and so the Redmine site has really, really, really helped me get my job done as a software developer. Even just having version control has been helpful. Having the web interface to deal with the version control has been helpful. Having a wiki to modernize how we do our documentation has been great. I'm looking forward to this ticketing system to kind of keep track. There's always the things that keep this in mind for in 6 months, and how are you supposed to keep track of that? Or you kind of file away the email. It's nice to actually tie this to where the code lives, and that way keep track of it that way instead of in my own personal space so other people can't see it.
I'm curious, when you did all the changes that showed up in the activity page, did that generate an email to the rest of your team members indicating that you had made those changes?
I know it emailed at least me. I think in the settings, I think each person can decide for themselves how many emails they want to get. I forget if it's in the settings or not, how often to get emails. I know that Tabitha got emails. I don't know about anybody else.
Because I know that's one of the benefits, particularly in a team environment where it keeps everybody on the same page because they see what you're doing and obviously can deconflict that with what they're doing.
Yeah, so if you didn't catch what I did, at the top of the page there's this My Account link, and it takes you here, and so you can set up how you want your email notifications. So I have it set up to email anytime anybody does anything, basically, to NDSC port. Well, it doesn't email me about commits to the repository, but like wiki edits and things like that. So I think each person has kind of customized what they wanted to get emails from. But yeah, that's how you can customize how often you get emails. I might want to check this because I found it annoying. So yeah, I'm going to tell it to stop emailing me when I make changes because it's a little bit much. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any other questions anyone has.
So does anyone have any questions for Tabitha? Oh, there's Brian. Okay, hold on a second, Brian. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Thanks. This is not really a VLab question, but Tabitha, where is some of this these stats available? You know, it used to be that there was some external pages that we could access through the best practices site or other things. Is there any verification that is available to, I guess, outside of AWIPS at this time?
It is a great question. Right now, it's only available, because of best practices being discontinued, it is currently only available behind the AWIPS firewall. Actually, we are working on ways to host the web pages again, probably on an MDLNet system. That'll happen soon, maybe in the next couple of weeks, and I can let you know when that's available. But yeah, unfortunately right now with the demise of best practices, our stats are only really available behind the AWIPS firewall.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great to know when that's available.
Yeah, I can let you know. And anybody else who's interested, you know, shoot me an email and I can send that along to you.
Is it a lot of traffic to such a site?
I don't know. I actually don't know how much the traffic is. I think that there's interest. The site, you know, lets you get your scores for, you know, your office or the region and things like that. I think that there is interest in it. I don't have a good idea on how much traffic it really gets. It's generated through a database, so that's why we'd be bringing it over to MDLNet, probably on a virtual machine to host it.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Tabitha.
You're welcome.
Quite informative. Okay, so for those who are new, and I see a few new faces, or in this case, new names on the list, these meetings are brought to you by the Virtual Lab support team. And one of the other things we do is provide, you know, during normal business hours, Monday through Friday, support for users within the VLab. And as we do that job, we oftentimes hear questions that we help users with, but they tend to have some, you know, commonality and whatnot. And so we have a segment of our meetings where we, which we call Fast Facts, where we try to communicate to a larger audience some of these things that folks have brought to our attention during the last month. So we will now move to the Fast Facts segment. And so, you know, we went through Mike Giebler's awesome presentation on how to become a power user in terms of configuring sort of the look and feel, perhaps, of our communities. And we want to, you know, continue to leverage that information to grow further into, you know, our expertise in using LifeRay. And so one of the people we've talked with has asked, you know, well, geez, okay, so now where do I get more information on this LifeRay portal software? And if you just do a Google of LifeRay, you probably won't be as happy with the results. It doesn't seem to come up very well. But the fast fact for today's meeting is that there's a LifeRay's developer network site out there. And down here you can see the URL for it. And so let's go ahead and quickly take a look at the site. And the first thing I'll point out on here is the very useful search box. So If you're looking for something in particular, you may want to just type that in and see what comes up. But after having Mike pique our interest in using workflow, we thought we would visit this site and see what LifeRay can tell us in a more maybe perhaps comprehensive way on what LifeRay can do from a workflow perspective. And so you go to this workflow page, gives you a bit of an overview and introduction, and then below here are some sort of subtopics that you can then click on and further explore the sort of the sequence of events that you would want to go through if you were going to implement some workflow in your community. So for those who may be wanting to do things and willing to spend some time doing a bit of research, this site, I believe, represents a vast treasure trove of information, which every VLab community owner should at least know about and perhaps make use of. So that was our first fast fact. Oh, yeah. Brought to you. Okay, so a couple weeks back, an individual was working with a forum, and they basically posted some information to the forum, and they had attached some nice images, and they were kind of surprised to see that these images didn't appear in the email message that got sent back to them. And so they wondered what happened. And so basically, the fast fact for this situation is that this is a known issue with LifeRay, and that there is a workaround for it. And to do that, to work around this problem, what you need to do is to, rather than email your forum posts, you need to go into the VLab and create it within the VLab forum. So right here you can see that if you make the post from within VLab, the emails that get sent to all the individuals that have subscribed to that, say, either the whole forum or the category or that particular thread, when they get their email, the images will show up. But if you happen to, from your desktop, email the forum post, it will in fact get posted to the forum, and the images in that email will be displayed in the forum. But unfortunately, when the email gets sent out to everybody who has subscribed to that particular thread, they will not see the images. They will have been stripped out. Now, this may sound worse than it is, because this scenario only takes place when you have configured your particular forum to act sort of as a, what do they call those, a listserv. So that, this is a step that not everybody has taken and not everybody needs. But it's good to know that if you do have this set up, where you have a function email account to which you can then email posts to your forum, if you do use images, you can't expect that the emails that get sent out to have those images in them. So a good gotcha to avoid. All right. Now, another problem that some of our users have encountered is the case of the vanishing upload button. So if you work in a blog, or if you work in a wiki, and you try to insert an image, the GUI will allow you to select there'll be a button right here that will say Browse Server. And so you would then click on that, and then you could upload an image from your desktop. But because of the use case that they use to design the forums under, that option is not available. And so the fast fact is to realize that despite your really reasonable desire to upload an image to your forum post, what you're going to have to do is recognize that limitation exists, and then upload the image to a document library within your community. And then you can obtain the URL for that document library item. So in this case, it would be an image. And then you can then insert that into this URL location. And I'll mention something here just before we move on to the next slide to show how to do this. But the URL that you insert in here, what's what you'll want to do is truncate the portion of it that comes before basically the host. So you'll see VLab stuff in there. Just remove all the HTTPS, VLab.noaa.gov from there, and just leave the first slash after the host name. That way, if at some point we change the host of our VLab, it won't, that link will still be valid. So just a way to make it more transportable. Okay, so let's take a look a little bit about how we would actually accomplish this. So you're probably familiar with the document library, and hopefully your community has one. So what you would do is go in to your document library and find the location where you want this image to live, and then click Add, and then you can add a basic document. And then you'll be presented with a little GUI that allows you to choose the file from your desktop. So you'll click Choose, you'll enter a title, a nice description, and then there's some information that isn't shown in this image, but one of the items that is in that list of things to enter for this particular file is a viewable by drop-down. And you want to be sure and select Any. That way when it gets mailed out, it won't matter who the user on the other end is. They will see your image embedded in their email. And then down at the very bottom of this form, you'll see a Publish button. And so you want to click that. It will then upload the file to the document library. So then we're halfway there. The next step is to click on that now uploaded file, which is an image. And in the right-hand section of the page, you'll see this Get URL. So you'll click there. That will reveal this URL here, and then you can cut and paste that URL back into the original place where you were trying to insert the image into your forum post. And so here's the where it says HTTPS, VLab, INSEP, NOAA.gov. That portion doesn't need to be there, and so you can remove that. And it's just everything to the right of that slash that you would insert into that field in the insert image. All righty, so that's that fast fact. And then one last fast fact that we thought, and it's more by way of just a cool bit of information, is if you're ever interested in knowing about VLab usage, then be advised that we have out on the VLab a forum that captures a monthly, basically Google Analytics image that will show you some information about what's been going on in the VLab during that last that month. So we have up there currently at this URL basically an image showing what happened during January, and you can see that it shows the number of sessions during the 4 weeks there in January. It tells you the number of sessions, number of users, page views, a host of information that will give you some sense of just how things were going within the VLab, to include the number of returning visitors versus new visitors. And let's see, we can take a quick look. For by community. This is for the collaboration services side. So this is for the whole thing. Okay. Right. Yes. Okay. All right. So it didn't take me to the page. There really wasn't anything I was going to show you in particular, but so let me just go back to the next slide, which is this is what you would see if you went to the page. And basically, you can subscribe here so that anytime I post a new monthly update, you'll get an email in your inbox showing you the image, and then you don't have to even come back to the VLab if you so choose. But if not, you can always just go in and view the previous month's issues by just clicking on the link there. All righty. So that's the Fast Fact segment for this week or month. And does anybody have any questions regarding our Fast Facts? Go ahead, Jim. Jim Calkins, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. About the Google Analytics report, can you view statistics on a community-by-community basis, or is it just overall for the entire VLab?
All right, so I'm going to give a short answer to that, and then leave an opportunity for Ken to come in with some more information, because I'm not entirely sure of the details. But basically, you have to go in and configure Google Analytics to look at certain aspects of your site. And so I believe that can be configured all the way down to the community level. But what that would require is that in advance, we would have to set that up. And then I suppose we would have to figure out some way to get that information to you. Because it basically would require, normally we would log in essentially to Google Analytics to see this kind of information. And I think that's currently only available to people on the VLST. So Ken, how did I do?
You did pretty well. So it is possible to, if you have a unique, I forget, it's like a Google Analytics ID. I might have that term wrong, but you can make a request, or we can make a request for that at the community level, and then we put that into the community configuration, and then it tracks that independently. And then, as John said, we should be able to, you as a community owner, we should be able to give you access to the analytics for your community. So you could actually go in anytime you wanted to check on that. So if you're interested in that, let us know. I think we've actually already done that for the AWIPS community, so that might be of interest to you.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
All righty, any other questions? All right. So that brings us to our roundtable, where we attempt to achieve the third major theme of what we do in these meetings, and that is to hear from you. We've been basically sort of communicating back to you now, and it's your turn to tell us what's been going on your end. And so let me go ahead and we'll go through the list of individuals on our meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to talk with folks. So starting at the top of the list, I'm going to unmute Adam. Snap, are you there?
Yeah.
So what have you been up to, and do you have anything for the forum?
I haven't really had the opportunity to use a whole lot. I'm just kind of listening in and learning. So no questions at this time, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Brian Maritzky?
No, I think I've asked enough questions for one day.
We do appreciate your active participation. Thank you.
Yeah, nothing, but we've talked before, and looks like that Portlet stuff is good, so I'll probably be emailing you all soon.
Okay, great. That's let's see, VLab.admin@noaa.gov. Let's see. I think it's Chen Hong.
Chenji.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
Good. I'm impressed by what Tabitha was doing with her repository and those things. I think we can learn a lot from her, because we are also using the repository, but other features we are not using much. So thanks, Tabitha.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you could join us, because I knew that your development kind of follows the same kind of.
Yeah, we use we use the repository to do our implementation.
Yep. Ask me questions anytime.
Okay. Thank you.
And Daniel Melendez, you have anything for the group?
I'm good, thanks. I'm listening. Thanks.
All right, great. And Eric Locklear, are you there? Looks like your mic is muted.
Oh, can you hear me now? Oh, great.
Yes, we
so
can.
This is Eric Locklear, and yeah, no, I've joined and I've been listening in, and I work for the Climate Program Office, and I'm just trying to find a better way to organize and our admin office without using Google or any more Google Docs and email as our filing system, and it's just pretty difficult. So I've enjoyed listening in, but I think I'm going to need some basic tutorials and a little bit more hands-on guidance. So I like the way that you pointed out the LifeRay in the W3 schools, so I can just get some basic information about the capabilities of what I have before me. So thanks.
Sure. And if you go to the VLab, under the Need Help link up at the top, there's an option in there to request a consultation or fire us off an email. So
yeah,
feel free to make use of that.
Yep. Thanks.
Sure. Awesome. Okay, he said we can't talk to him because I'm on his own. But Jack Settlemeyer, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you
have
hear me?
anything for the group?
No, I used one of my examples of my attempt to make use of VLab, so that's good. I try to use it as I can, see if I can make it useful for me.
Okay.
I'm learning slowly. Thanks.
Sounds good. And Jim Calkins, did you have anything for the roundtable?
No, I don't.
Okay. Kate Howard, you're next up.
Yeah, I want to thank Tabitha for the presentation today, since those of us from EMC are looking at possibly moving our repository over to VLab sometime in the near future. So it was nice to see what we'll be seeing in the future, hopefully. So thanks, Tabitha.
You're welcome.
Let's see, Woody Roberts, do you have anything for us? Are you there, Woody? Yeah. Okay. We can't hear you, Woody, so I'm going to go on, and Tom Filiaggi. Hi, Tom. Do you have anything for the roundtable?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Righty. And let's see, Laura. Laura, you're on. You're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
I would like to maybe help with Jim Calkins if he wanted to have analytics for his community.
Okay. Okay.
That's
excellent,
it.
Excellent. All righty. I'm going to unmute you again. Okay. All righty. Well, we did pretty good, coming in hour and 24 minutes. So I think we made good, productive use of our time this afternoon, and we really appreciate you spending it with us. Our next meeting is March 25th. So I hope you'll make plans to attend, and if there's something that you want to hear us talk about, either on development services or collaboration services side of things, be sure and drop us a line and get that in the hopper so we can meet your needs. Thank you very much. Have a nice one.